Hey there, Preston Wallace, software engineer, and I am talking about SEO in React today. Please note, I do have a fully deployed app and a GitHub repo that go along with this video, so please follow along there. So yeah, let's get right into it. SEO in React, where there are 3 essential tools that I'm gonna share today, plus talking about an isomorphic app. So Google results, of course, are important. The stats show that 95% of web traffic goes to sites on page 1 of Google. It's just crazy. And most of that traffic goes to the top 5. So literally everybody uses Google. How do we get on the first page of Google? Well, number 1 is content, good content, great app, something that people want to come back to. But I'm already assuming that you created that. You just want to make sure that people can find it. We are going to be focusing on an accessible URL, technical SEO, and content that's viewable by search engines. So what are these 3 React challenges? Typically, if we don't have React Router or anything set up for our URLs, we only have one URL. It's a single URL for our entire app, no matter how many views we have. That's bad. So meta tags, we also can't edit those depending on the views. And our JavaScript may load differently by Google's bot. Sometimes it doesn't even load at all, as evidenced by the screenshot there. So this is a real problem. This is what we get back when we are requesting / or virtually any other of our URLs. It's just a blank HTML page with a div that we can attach our React DOM to. So those 3 React challenges, and how we address those are with React Router, with React Helmet, and the tool fetches Google. All 3 of those we're going to go over. So again, these are our code examples. Please click the links in the video notes. Our single page application definitely should not be a single URL application. Use React Router to switch the views. In doing so, we're not just switching the views based on something like a variable in state, like when you're making something with tabs. Use something like React Router still, even though you're just creating tabs. Make it so that each one has its unique URL so that Google can actually index each one of those views. And it's seeing that content. Do use React Router. In this coding example that I've created, we have 2 links and we have 2 routes on this same component. That way, with those 2 different routes, we're rendering 2 different views. One note, don't use hash router in React Router. You can if you want. There may be a way to make it work, but as of October 2018, Google said that hash bang from Angular may be indexable, but anything that just has a hash in the URL is most likely not going to be indexed by Google. So just don't use it. Also, don't forget to wrap the entire app in browser router. So header tags with React Helmet. So without it, we are only getting what we see on the left here. Our React SEO demo app, Preston Wallace's app, yeah, it's the same exact title for every single URL. The URL is different. The description is a little bit different just because Google creates that from the contents on the page, but we don't even get to specify what is put in that description part. So on the right here, deployed with Helmet, we have 2 different URLs that have unique titles, unique descriptions, perfect for Google. Google can index 2 different pages with different content, and you can see those 2 different search engine results page listings, SERP listings. So with React Helmet, we are going to require in Helmet, and then we're going to have that Helmet tag up in the top of our component, and then we're going to, that way, we can actually have access to the title, we can have access to the meta description, and other tags that are in the header as well, meta tags. So it's perfect. We can actually update the title and everything with different components, and you can see that in the demo app. So what happens if Google won't fetch? We are most likely going to get something like this. We're going to get fetch as Google with a blank page, and that's not good. We want Google to be able to see what we are rendering. We don't want to hide from Google. So those are a few different tools that we can use, but the main thing, the gold standard of SEO in React and single page applications in general is let's render everything server side. What does that mean? Well, I have another demo app here. It's the same exact app. It's just rendered fully on the server before the requests, the response is sent back. So let's review. The real problem here is we just have a blank HTML page with one div that we're attaching our entire React DOM to. Thus, we get a blank page when Google renders it. What single server-side rendering achieves is we are actually sending back a fully indexable HTML page with complete HTML markup. It's great for Google because they can actually index it. And down at the bottom, we have bundle.js that we're going to run as well. And so therefore, we can actually render the homepage of our app. We can render different URLs of our app, of course, as well, once we add in React Router. Another reason why is faster initial page load times. Now, of course, this is only assuming your server is much faster than your client. On my demo app, it's a free Heroku app. Therefore, their server goes to sleep after a while. So anytime that anybody's going to request it, it's most likely going to be much slower than client-side rendered apps. But that's beside the point. Make sure you have a good hosting server. So how is server-side rendering done? On the left, we have client rendered. We know what that's all like. Send a blank HTML file, attach the DOM, React Smart updates the view. On the right side, we have server rendered apps. So we're going to create the entire HTML markup on the server side. We're going to send that whole thing back, and then the client loads bundle.js to only update what needs to be updated after that initial render. So this is kind of fun, little example, coffee. Client rendered is like a Keurig. Server rendered is like a traditional coffee pot. Client rendered code, it's quick. Like a Keurig, it's quick to pick out which coffee or tea. It's modular. They come in these nice little packages. There's less overhead. We only use the coffee that we need, and it's not always ready for you. That's the bummer. You only have to wait a few seconds, a few minutes, but you know it's not always ready. So that's where server-side rendering comes in. It's always ready to serve. It's prepped ahead of time. But the downside is that it is more complicated to maintain, and there is more overhead. You use more coffee even if you don't need it. So how is server-side rendering done? Step one, create the bundle.js. That's no different. But where it's different is we create the React code, the JSX, that is compiled and rendered on the server before that request comes in. Note, please make sure your Babel is set up correctly, otherwise Node won't understand JSX. The request comes in our app.js on the left. We have our client rendered code. App.get goes and grabs that index HTML file. It's a blank HTML. We're going to send that back. On the client side, we have the, we're going to run the bundle.js, which is going to be the compiled version of what you see here on the screen, which is all of our components in our entry point. So let's go back to server rendered. We're going to, on a GET request, we're going to send back, well, actually, we're going to go into SSR here, this function. And it looks very much like our normal entry point, but it's actually just creating a bunch of code. So this is an already transpiled version of this, actually, is what we're going to be running. And we're going to send that back to app. And then we're going to be putting that inside template, which is basically a template with just a string inside it. That's the HTML content. And then you see the little variable content there. That is where we're injecting our already compiled version of our React code that is server-side rendered. Thus, we're going to be sending all of that back as the response as a fully indexable HTML page. Then, on subsequent renders, we are going to be using hydrate, react-dom.hydrate instead of react-dom.render. What is that? Well, it's basically the same thing. It only smart updates what is displayed after all the HTML has been loaded. It'll only attempt to attach event listeners to the existing markup. So to review, we have three powerful tools with no server-side rendering required in React. We have React Router, React Helmet, and Fetch as Google. But we have a fourth tool, which is very important if we can get it running, an isomorphic app. Server-side rendering sends pre-rendered, fully indexable HTML, and it also has the benefits of a single-page application. Finally, it's potentially faster initial load time than client rendered. So thank you for watching. Please check out these links. Check out my Medium post on this same topic, and my 2 examples are both on GitHub. They are both currently deployed on Heroku. They may not be both there in the future. One is with server-side rendering, one is without. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.